Is QuickBooks Online not cutting it for you anymore? Are you potentially looking to switch to something maybe a little more user-friendly or perhaps a little bit cheaper that still does all the things you need an accounting system to do? Well, you're in the right place. Now, for those of you who have followed me, I have been a QuickBooks Online user for a long time. I've been a pro advisor in the past, so I know a lot about QuickBooks Online, but I also get comments like this all the time talking about people who want to switch and want to understand how to switch. And I think for a lot of people, just like Natalia, who maybe want to switch, it's intimidating to really think about how easy it's going to be or how difficult, and making sure everything comes over correctly. And so it might feel a little bit insurmountable, so you might feel stuck. So because people ask me all the time how easy it is to switch from something like QuickBooks to another accounting software, I decided to try it myself. I'm actually going to go through this with my own books, and I will let you know if it's easy or not. We're going to find out here together. So in today's video, I'm going to go over specifically how to switch from QuickBooks Online to Xero. Now, a lot of this will still apply even if you're switching from a different accounting software. If you don't have QuickBooks, if you're using something else, a lot of the same processes will apply, but I'm going to show you how to get started in Xero. Now, if you haven't signed up for Xero yet, definitely use my partner link. It will get you the best deal out there, jamietrull.com/Xero. That's Xero with an X. And make sure to sign up there. We have some great promos running right now, so go check them out. So come along with me. Let's jump on over there and get started making the switch. So of course, the very first place I started was to check on the Xero website to see what kind of resources they had for switching. And they do have quite a few actually help articles around switching from other accounting systems. So I read this one, which gave me some overall tips. But the first thing I had to determine is, do I want to do this manually, or do I want to use a conversion partner like JetConvert? So that was the first thing I was trying to figure out, is what's going to be the best way to do this. Now, I don't think the answer is necessarily the same for everyone, but just from the perspective of an accountant, if you're not an accountant doing this, I think it actually can be easier to do manually. And the reason for that is that when you are doing it manually, you're essentially starting over with new balances. So you're not trying to import all of your data from your previous accounting system like QuickBooks. You're not trying to move all that past data over. You're basically going to be starting fresh in a new year and entering in those opening balances. And generally, as an accountant, it's what I prefer. If I am moving my own books, that's likely what I'm going to do, in part because I've already got all of that data in my other system. I don't necessarily need to go through the process of having to, fix anything that goes wrong or reconcile all these, all this past data. If you have already closed out the year in your accounting software that you're currently using, you really, it might be simpler to not do that and to just do it manually and start from that conversion date. Now, some of this is also going to depend on how complicated your books are. So if we go over to JetConvert, which is what they recommend, you can see and get kind of a feel for how this works exactly. And essentially, if you wanted to use them, you could get a basic package where they will go put the current and previous fiscal year transactions in, and your chart of accounts and everything for you. And then there's some optional extras depending on what you want to do. For example, if you want to add in those monthly comparatives, all things like that. So you absolutely can do that. It looks like Xero is going to subsidize that if you decide to go and use JetConvert. But again, I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be a lot more work than you think. If you think this is going to cut down on your work just from an accountant's perspective, it probably won't. And that's because there are a lot of things that can go wrong. Even when you're importing, you're probably not going to be able to import every little thing back into the system. And that's because the systems are set up differently. So there may not be a way to necessarily easily pull from one system into another. So again, unless you have a reason that you need to have all of this historical data in your new system, then I would consider just doing this a more manual way, but actually the more manual way is probably going to be a lot quicker and have less issues. And it's important to note here too, that if you're worried about not having access to those old transactions, QuickBooks actually will give you a year. So once you discontinue with QuickBooks Online, you will have a year to download everything that you need from the system. So first of all, you can download all the reports you could possibly need out of QuickBooks to make sure that you have all of that historical information. Again, it's most going to be useful if you're ever audited, things like that. But essentially, you have a year to be able to do that, and they're going to keep it on read-only mode. So you can still log into QuickBooks, it's not going to go away. You have a year before they will purge your data. And so that gives you time if you need to go back and research some things, you can, or if you forgot to download some reports. But again, because you have that access and you can download all those past reports, you probably don't need to have all of that past data at a transaction level in your new system. So let's go on in to see what Xero says. The rest of this video, I'm going to walk through how to do this the more manual way. Again, though, if you have lots, if you're trying to, bring in all kinds of things, and you want to do this via JetConvert and you want to have all that data in there, or maybe you have a ton of customized data in your QuickBooks, and you don't want to lose it, then you can go and check out and go through the process of JetConvert. Although I do recommend working with an accountant or a bookkeeper to make sure everything moves over correctly, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong. So if we're doing this the more manual way, we are going to read through what we need to do. And of course, the first thing we need to do is we need to sign up for Xero. So I'm going to go through that first, and then we're going to go through the rest of these steps. And the other thing we're going to need to do is choose our conversion date. Now, this is really important. This is essentially the date we want to start using Xero. So this is probably going to be a date sometime in the past. And often I recommend going back to January 1st of the year you are currently in. So if you're doing this in January, that would be January 1st of this year. If you're doing this later in the year, I would still recommend going back to January 1st of the year. And that is because that's going to be the easiest cutoff when it comes to accounting. We'll talk a little bit more about why that is later. You can go back to say March 1st or, pick another date. It's going to always be the first of a month, however. But I generally think it is always a good idea to go back to January 1st, even if you're making this switch in, September, October. It may still be a good idea to go back to the 1st of January or to wait until the 1st of January of the next year to make the switch. So now let's go sign up for that Xero account. And of course, you want to get the best deal possible. So definitely make sure to go to my partner link, which is jamietrull.com/Xero. And there you can see what my current partner deals are. They do change, but they are going to be better than what you're going to be able to get on the Xero website. So you might as well sign up there. Now, you can search around and look at different things on the Xero website, but make sure to navigate back to this link before you sign up. And then also make sure to check your region at the top. It's probably going to tell you which region you're looking at prices for. You can change that. So if you're not in the United States, maybe you're in one of these other places, then you can get the deals for that place, but you want to make sure that you've checked that region before you sign up for your account. Now go ahead and press the button and it will take you to that form to get started with Xero where you're going to enter in your information. Now, just make sure that that deal that's mentioned there is what you expect before you enter in your information. And then once you put your information in, you should see this confirmation, which tells you the next steps on what you need to do. So the first thing, of course, as usual, is going to be verifying your account. You can also scroll down and you can see what your offer details were and just triple check that it is the right offer that you expected to get with my partner link. And then you're going to navigate over to your email and you're going to go ahead and verify your account with the email that they sent you. So once you've clicked that button, it's going to navigate you to this screen and you're going to go ahead and activate your account. And now it's going to take you to where you can add your business. So go ahead and put in all of your business information in here. It's going to be your business name, your industry, whether you have employees, your country, and then also it's going to ask you what tool you're currently using for your accounting. So It has options like FreshBooks, QuickBooks, manual methods, spreadsheets. Maybe you're using my P&L spreadsheet and you're making the switch. Whatever you are using, just go ahead and click that button. In this case, we're going to say QuickBooks, and then we're going to click Buy Now. And then this is going to navigate you to the screen where you can see which different packages you might want. So right now they have the early, the growing, and the established. All of them are really affordable right now, especially with that 97% off that is the deal I currently have. You can check and make sure that affiliate promo code is showing up. And then you're going to be able to look down and see the different feature differences. But remember to look at what the cost will be after that promotion time as well, because once that promotion is up, you will be paying full price. So you want to make sure you know what that is. And then you can go and check the plan that's right for you. I like some of the tracking projects that they have and the claiming expenses. Those two things are actually pretty attractive to me. Tracking project profitability, that's a really cool feature to be able to have if that's something that you need to do. And then also claiming expenses. This isn't just, claiming expenses for deductions. Obviously, all of the different packages will have that. That's really claiming expenses if you are reimbursing employees for expenses, which I do. So for me, I'm going to go ahead. I might as well try the established because, again, it's super affordable for that trial period. And then if I decide later I don't need all that, I might downgrade to growing. But I'm going to go ahead and select the established plan for me to just give it a try. And then I clicked on, it allows you to potentially add some add-ons. If you are a product-based business with physical products, then you might want to add Inventory Plus, or you can always come back and do that later. But for me, I don't need that, so I'm not going to add that. And then here we are where we have to create our billing account, of course. So go ahead and fill in all of your information for billing. So now it's going to take you to the subscriptions tab, and you basically have created your subscription for Xero. So I love the fact that they have a demo company here too. If you wanted to play around and didn't want to mess up your company that you're setting up, but you wanted to try some things and see how it works, you can go use that demo company, which is great. And now I'm going to go into my dashboard. So now I'm in my Xero account, and this is what my dashboard looks like when I just set up a new account. Obviously, there's nothing in here because I haven't put anything in here yet. That's what we're going to do next. They do have this little setup guide here. It looks like this is really more about how to use Xero. It's less about importing things into Xero and getting set up. So that could be useful. But again, the first thing I want to do is get my balances in here to have a starting point in Xero. So now it's time to go into QuickBooks Online and pull down the reports that we need. And we're going to go ahead and pull down reports that we need for the transition, but also just any reports we want to keep and have on file. So these are things we're just going to file away in case we're ever audited. Hopefully not, knock on wood, but we want to make sure that we have whatever reports that we might possibly need. And what we're also going to want to make sure we have done before we get to this point is close out the year in our old accounting software. So if you are closing out a year in QuickBooks Online, that means you want to make sure that you have all your transactions in here, they've all been categorized properly, and you've reconciled your account. So that's really important because if you haven't done that, then any issues you may be having in QuickBooks Online are just going to come right on over into Xero. So we want to make sure that our ending balances are what we're going to be utilizing. We want to make sure that we have finalized everything and have all the information we're going to be using for tax purposes. So if you haven't done that yet, I would definitely do that first because the cleaner your reports are to start over with, the better luck you're going to have in this transition. So we're going to start by going up to settings, and you can see that there is an export data under tools. And so when you go ahead and click this, it's going to ask you this question, which made me chuckle a little bit because it's just assuming that you're doing it as a backup or because you're moving to QuickBooks Desktop. And none of the answers are because you're moving to a different online software. But we're going to go ahead and just ignore that and X out of that because QuickBooks, you do not need to know why I am doing this. And you can see here that it's already put in a bunch of reports. It's got your general ledger, which is your detailed transactions, your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your trial balance, all the things you could potentially need. So as far as dates, what I recommend is to go ahead and say custom. And rather than putting in a start date and an end date, because you're wanting to move everything that's before the 31st, you're going to go ahead and just put the 31st of last year as your end date. So in this case for me, that's 12/31/2024. And then you're going to go ahead and export that to Excel. You're going to get a zip file that you can save onto your desktop. And then you've got those forms saved. So remember, just save that somewhere you're not going to forget where it is. And then you can go back in. There's some additional things that you may want to also save. And that's under that Lists tab. So we just did the reports. Now we're going to go to Lists. And you can export customers, employees, and vendors. If those are even fields you use, you might as well just go ahead and save them, even if you're not sure. And then the next thing that we're going to do is go to reports, because that is probably not all the things that we're going to want or need for our records. And I highly recommend just scrolling down through all these reports and thinking about which ones would be helpful for you to have. So it's got all your standard reports, right? Like your profit and loss and your balance sheet, but it also has additional reports that might be really useful to you in the future. So again, feel free to pull down and save as many of these reports as you think would be helpful. So one that I definitely recommend though for this transition is the account list. So this is also something you can find under the chart of accounts tab, but you're going to want to download your chart of accounts. So you're going to go ahead and click this, and you're going to want to download your account list. It's going to tell you what all the different accounts you're using are in QuickBooks Online and the type of account those are. So when we go to set up our chart of accounts in Xero, that's a report that we are definitely going to be using. So now let's jump back into our Xero dashboard. And where do we go from here? Well, we're going to start and we're going to hit accounting, and then we're going to go down to advanced. And when we do that, we have some advanced settings there on the right. We're going to start with chart of accounts. That's generally the place that I recommend starting. You can check out your financial settings, things like that in here too, but go ahead and click chart of accounts. And I thought this was really interesting when I went into this the first time. I really like how this is set up. I think it's a lot more manageable than QuickBooks Online's chart of accounts because you can see all accounts. It also, you have different things for assets, liabilities, equity. It has gone ahead and chosen a service organization chart of accounts for me. That's because of the information about my business that I put in and the type of business it was when I signed up for the account. Yours might be different, so you can always customize that if you want to. Again, it's just giving you that starting place. And I love also that it has all of these different account numbers in there. So QuickBooks Online doesn't necessarily default to that. I love account numbers because they just help keep everything neat and tidy, and it's easier to organize your chart of accounts by using account numbers. So you can take a look through those, and there is a button to import. So the question is, do we want to import directly from those QuickBooks Online files that we downloaded, or do we want to do it more manually with the Add Account button? So just showing you, this is what it looks like when you import it. I don't know why it says what system are you importing from, and the only choice is Xero, because over here it literally says from your previous accounting system. However, you could go ahead and do this and put in a file for import. It has an example file as well that you can utilize. But honestly, I think that might be more prone to error. Again, I think whenever we import something, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So unless you have tons and tons and tons of different accounts that you want to include in there, it might actually be easier to do this a little more manually and enter in the accounts that you want. And the reason that I say that is because I always find when we're setting up a new accounting system, sometimes it's nicer to kind of have a clean slate and not have everything all cluttered like perhaps our previous accounting system got. So when we start importing, we're just going to end up in the same space. So just looking through these tabs, again, we've got assets, we've got liabilities in here that we're looking at. Those are the 2000 accounts. So you can kind of get a feel for the way they have numbered it. All of the asset accounts started with a 1, all of the liability accounts start with a 2, and you can kind of figure out how you want to add additional accounts and what you want them to be numbered. Then you're going to come up here to equity. You're going to see the equity accounts that are already in here. Those are going to be accounts with starting with 3,000 on this chart of accounts. And then our expenses are going to be the 5,000 accounts. If you're wondering where the 4,000 are, we skipped them. Those are the revenue accounts. We'll get to those in a minute. But you'll see the cost of goods sold, the more direct costs, those are the 5,000s, and the 6,000s are your general expenses. So most of your expenses are going to show up in that 6,000. And let's say that there are things on here that you know you're not going to have. I like the fact that you can just go ahead and delete those accounts from here. Some accounts are locked, but you can go ahead and delete them from here if you know you're not going to need them. And you can go ahead and edit them if you want to change the name of this. If you're like, you know what, I don't need mileage reimbursement, but maybe there's another account that you could put in there instead. I think that's really cool to be able to do it all directly from here and not have to click around all over the place. And then we're going to see our revenue. That's going to be those 4,000 accounts. So those are ones that we can edit as well. If you want to have different revenue accounts, or if you want to delete some of these, you can absolutely do that. So now it's time for some fun. This is where we can actually start customizing our chart of accounts to match what we had in QuickBooks, or even to make it even better than what we had in QuickBooks. So what I've done is I've pulled up on the right-hand side, that's that account list, which includes all of the accounts that we're using and the account type in it. And then that was the final report that we pulled out of QuickBooks. So you're going to want to pull that one up. And then I just put it side by side with Xero. So this might be an easy way just to compare and contrast. And notice that these top, 14 or so accounts, the first 14 lines, those are my asset accounts. And most of those are going to be bank accounts. So you can see we already have an accounts receivable, but the rest of those are bank accounts that I have, and those obviously won't be in there. So that's something that we're going to have to add. We're not going to do that just yet. You can either add account or add bank account. For the bank accounts, you're going to do that add bank account, and we'll come back to that in just a minute, where we're actually going to link our bank account with Xero. But we're not going to do that just yet. But now we're going to kind of look through these accounts and put anything else that's not a bank account or a credit card into Xero. So let's start down here with expenses. I think that's going to be the easiest place to start. And I will notice the fact that I have a Facebook ads expense account specifically, because I like to see that separately. And when I come over to Xero, right now I just have advertising. So advertising is account 6,000, and that's all that's in there. So if I want to continue to track that on a more granular level on my profit and loss, I would have to create a new account. So in that case, I'm going to go down and pick the kind of account it is. So again, you can see that in column B of the report if you're not sure. And that's likely going to match up. So we're going to say expenses. And then remember that the advertising account was 6,000. So for this one, maybe it's 6010 is what I decide to use. And then it comes right after advertising. And then I can name it whatever the heck I want. And I like the fact that it also tells me that the account is available. So that number I can use. And so I can proceed to go ahead and name it and create this new account. And then I'm going to go ahead and press save. So once I've done that, now I'm going to see it show up right underneath advertising on my P&L. And so that's going to align with what I had before. So now I can actually go back and decide, do I want to add all of these different accounts in there? Or maybe I've decided, you know what, I don't need to track all of this separately. I'm actually going to put SEO and website and branding together to kind of clean up my P&L a little bit. Or maybe Google ads and Facebook ads become one account. Again, we can do that when we clean this up. So this is also a great opportunity to clean up your books a little bit, clean up how you want to see your profit and loss statement, because that's going to have a really great effect on being able to make sense of your financials. So you can go through and do that for each and every account that you want to include on your chart of accounts that isn't currently there. And you can also go back and delete any accounts that Xero put in that you aren't going to need. And then after that is when you're going to take the next step to add things like your bank accounts and your credit cards, because those are going to actually be linked. So now we are going to go ahead and add a bank account. So let's see how to do that. I went to the Assets tab, I just hit Add Bank Account, and this is actually going to be syncing with your bank account. So you can search for various different bank accounts or credit cards in here, and it will often be a direct integration. So that's the great thing about Xero. It has tons and tons of direct banking integrations, which means you're not using a middleman like Plaid that always is going down. So once you search for that, it's going to have you actually log in to that bank account. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And you're going to see when you get in there, it might just take you directly to the bank account and you might not know what to do. That's what happened to me at first. It just took me straight into my bank account. And I actually had to go search for integrations. So depending on what bank account or what credit card, you may have to look around, but there was a direct Xero integration. So I was able to find that integrations tab. And when I hit that and I saw the Xero integration, and so I clicked to add that integration and it brought me here to the sync transactions. So that's where I ended up. And I definitely recommend, it's usually going to ask you, do you want to bring in all transactions or all transactions from the last 6 months or from a specific date? Absolutely do from a specific date. We have a conversion date. We want to make sure we're only bringing in transactions from that conversion date so we don't accidentally double count anything. And so assuming you're starting as of the first of the year, that's going to be January 1st of the current year that you are in. And that's usually going to be the cleanest way to do it. And you're going to go ahead and press sync transactions or whatever that button says for your specific bank. And now you can see when I went back in, this was another thing that was weird. I actually had to navigate back to Xero.com and log in. But when I did, I went and I saw on my dashboard that my bank account is showing up. It gives me lots of different selections, things that I can do directly from there, which I really like. You don't have to go hunting and pecking. So if you want to reconcile, you can do it directly from your dashboard. And so I thought that was really nice. So later on, after I record this, I'm going to go back and add my other bank accounts and my other credit cards. Credit cards are going to essentially follow the same path. You're just going to add them as a liability, but you're still going to click add bank account and you'll be able to navigate and add your credit cards and then reconcile them. So now I've gone through and I've added all of the accounts, and that really only took me like 20 to 25 minutes. So just pull up your chart of accounts and go through it and just mark off after you've done it. And it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So the next thing is to bring in the starting balances. So we're going to go back to that accounting tab. We're going to go to advanced again. And this time we're going to hit conversion balances. And now here you're going to see all the accounts that you put in. And you can go through really quickly. If you don't want any of these, you can go ahead and X them out immediately right from this screen as well. So this is a great place to also be able to control your chart of account. You can even add a new account from here if you realize that you forgot one. So that's a really great feature as well. So you can take a look through this and make any changes that you want to. And then we're going to bring in these balances. So this is where that trial balance that we ran out of QuickBooks Online is going to come in handy. So you want to pull up your trial balance report as of December 31st of the prior year, the day before your transition. Now, one thing to note is that when I pulled up my trial balance, it showed a whole bunch of zeros and I was very confused. If this happens to you, if the trial balance that you saved out of QuickBooks is doing this, then just make sure it's probably because you're in protected view. You just need to click this enable editing at the top and then all your balances should show up. So now we've reached the fun part where we get to put in all those opening balances. And what I've done right now is put my trial balance up against the conversion balances section in Xero. And what I like about using the trial balance for this is the fact that it will tell you the debit and credit. This can get a little bit tricky. Usually assets are going to be debit balances, credit balances are going to be things like liabilities, but it can get a little wonky when we get into especially like retained earnings and the equity section. So that is where you want to have a report like this that shows you which column to be inputting all of this into. Now, again, I recommend going through and adding everything to the chart of accounts that you need to ahead of time. I haven't fully done that just yet, but I will. a little bit later, but you can also, as you're going through it, if you realize, oh shoot, there's an account I forgot to add, you can add it straight from here instead of having to go all the way back to the chart of accounts. So that's the nice thing too. You can add a new line where you just do add a new account, and you can do the same thing that you could do over in the chart of accounts tab, which is a nice little option so that you can keep working and not have to continue to go back to the other screens. So what you're going to do here is just carry these balances over. Now, here's my recommendation for this, just to make this into a useful kind of mapping document. What I'm going to do is add another column. So this is just to help keep me straight, make sure that I don't do anything wrong or I don't miss anything, and also to help keep me organized, especially if I want to change some of these accounts, right? Because again, we're starting fresh. Maybe we want to cut our P&L in half, or, cut down on the accounts that we don't actually really need and have gotten a little unwieldy. So what we can do here is put in QuickBooks account and then new Xero account. And we can actually write what this is. So in this case, I can write Novo Bank account because that's what I've called it over here. And I believe you can actually copy and paste. Let's see. You can. So you can copy and paste this over if you want to, or you can just type it in. But remember, the key is that when everything is in, this is how you're going to know if you did it correctly or not. Your total debits and your total credits should balance out. If they don't, something is up. So we don't want to save it unless that has been balanced out, because it's going to post an adjustment to fix it, but it could make your balance sheet kind of wonky. So definitely you want to make sure that everything balances when it's all in there. And another reason to do this is, so for example, let's say down here, I have 2 different accounts for product sales. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering, no, these are not my actual numbers. These are sample numbers that I have put in here. So, just in case you thought I was putting my actual P&L up here, I am not. However, I do use, these are my account names. So let's say I come down here to product sales, and I realize, you know what? I don't really need to be separately tracking the PayPal versus Stripe. So I'm just going to add these together. So I'm just going to make this, and I already made this change over here, but you can find it right here. I called it digital product sales. It's account 4010. So in that case, I'm just going to write digital product sales. Then I'm going to see how much this is in total. 94,296.51, and that's what I'm going to put over here when I get there, is 94,296.51. 4,296.51. So that's one way to kind of clean it up so that you don't have to carry everything over. That's another reason that just importing everything, you're going to have to clean it up at some point. So just start afresh. It actually feels kind of nice, I got to be honest. And I'm going to go through this and do this, but I don't imagine this process taking me more than about 10 minutes. Okay, so magically I have filled all of these in. It took me less than 10 minutes, like I thought, to go ahead and do this. It took a minute because I was actually off a little bit at the bottom and I had to figure out what I forgot, so I was leaving out one account. If you're off, just make sure to go check back through it and see where you might be off. If you're off by a lot, it could either be in a missing account or maybe you put something in the wrong column. So just make sure that you're checking that. But once you've entered all that, then you can go ahead and save it. And then once you've saved it, I want you to go up and do a quick check. So this is where you can go back to accounting. One thing I love about Xero too is how easy it is to get to those reports that you use all the time. And so I'm going to run right on down here and I'm going to go straight to the balance sheet. And when I pull this up, I can run the balance sheet as of December 31st, 2024, which it already has put in here. And now I can go and compare this to my existing balance sheet. So this should tie out to the balance sheet that I have that I saved out of QuickBooks. So if it doesn't, then you might want to go back and see what might be happening. If it's adding a strange line that's an adjustment line, that means that your balances did not balance. So you'll want to go back and see if you can figure out why that's the case. But ultimately, this should summarize your balance sheet. And then you can do the same thing by checking your profit and loss for December 31st, 2024. And you should be able to tie that out to your P&L from QuickBooks as well. And then another cool feature that I saw in here was this ability to add comparative balances. So again, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, you could press that add comparative balances and add even the year prior and go through such that you would have a comparative balance sheet, right? Like you can look at year over year. So you can go back and add everything in. It's not going to, of course, have all the transaction details, but it will have your balance sheet and P&L for the full year, going back as many years as you want to. Obviously, that takes a little bit more time. It's up to you whether you want to do it, but it's a good compromise between bringing in every single transaction detail and dealing with all the crazy reconciliation, and just having some high-level balances that you can use when you're running reports and when you're comparing results from one year to another. Now, most of the heavy lifting is done by this point. So if you've been worried about making this switch, that took me about an hour. So the most painstaking thing was just to go in and to actually enter in all those new accounts that I needed, and then to enter in the balances, but that was pretty easy. And then it was done. So it was really kind of surprising, and that was doing it the manual way. Now, what this means is that you now have your historical financial statements and your starting point and all your bank and credit card balances all linked up for the future. Now, if you're wondering if that's all you need to do, it really depends. For a lot of companies, that may be all you need to do, and then you can go forward running. Now, if you have other things, though, that you wanted to bring over, then you may have a few more things you need to do. So that's really going to be business dependent. But what you can look at is when we go up to this menu here, you can go into business and, for example, let's say you wanted to bring over some invoices. If you had some outstanding invoices as of the end of the year, you may have to bring those in as well. So in this case, you could import your invoices. It's going to give you instructions on how to do that. In most cases, it's going to be a template that you are going to download from Xero, and then you're going to put your information from QuickBooks into that formatted template. So you're not going to be uploading the exact same things that you got out of QuickBooks. You're probably going to have to format it to fit how Xero needs to see that information. So that's going to be the case with a lot of these. So you're going to be able to determine what you upload and what gets included. And then you're going to be able to do that for anything you might need. So invoices might be one of them. Maybe it's bills to pay. There is an option in here to be able to import any bills that you maybe had, right, in your previous system. So again, it's going to start with the template, and then you're going to modify it, and then you can import things in. Now, again, anything you do, I always recommend going back after you're done with everything. Go back and take a look at your last year's balance sheet and your last year's income statement and make sure nothing kind of got messed up based on what you just did. So always go back and check and make sure everything is still as you expect it to be. And there's also contacts that you can bring over. So you can bring over all contacts, customers, suppliers, and you can go ahead and import those customers in. Remember, we downloaded those lists out of QuickBooks. So you're probably going to have to download that template and then read the instructions on how to fill it out and then upload it. And then all that information will be within Xero as well. So yes, it's a little bit of work, a little bit of uploading and downloading and modifying the information. Just make sure that the information is what you want it to be before you import it, right? Because that's where some of the issues come in when it doesn't import exactly how you want, or something is messed up in the import, and then you spend more time trying to fix that than anything else. So thank you all for joining me for this step-by-step tutorial from QuickBooks to Xero. I'm going to go back and play around in here a little bit and actually upload my real balances into Xero so that I can use this going forward and so that I can make more content on Xero for all of you. So there you have it. That really wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. That was pretty straightforward. Obviously, there are some things to watch out for and to make sure that you check, but hopefully that shows you that it's not quite as intimidating to switch systems as you think. Now, as I stated, it does make sense to kind of pick that day that you're going to start with as your transition date. I think that's going to make things a lot easier, and just to make sure that your books are updated through that date in whatever system you're switching from, whether it's QuickBooks Online or something else. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe. It means a lot to a creator like me, and also tells me that you want more about Xero on this channel, and I will make more content for you, especially now because I have my books in Xero too. Now, if you're still on the fence about switching to Xero or maybe looking into other options, definitely check out this video where I go into the top alternatives for QuickBooks Online. And if you're thinking about switching to another accounting system and you want me to do a walkthrough video for that system, then make sure to comment that down below as well. As always, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.